Hi everyone. I just wanted to put a little video together to kind of break down a bit more about Cauda Equina syndrome, and basically explain the things I have to go through every day. Not many people understand, and sometimes it's very hard to talk about it as well, because some of the things I have to do is quite graphic, and some people probably say too much information, and I have heard TMI before and stuff like that. So I mean, if you are easily squeamish and stuff, it's probably best not to watch this. But I'm not going to show anything graphic. I'm just going to explain the graphic sides of things and what I have to go through, because I kind of feel like not many people are listening out there regarding what we with Cauda Equina syndrome have to go through on a daily basis. We listen to each other, and obviously we can talk graphic to each other because we get it, we understand, but not many people really want to hear it. And I think it's very important that people kind of push beyond that and try to understand what we're going through and the things we have to do on a daily basis. So there are many things that Cauda Equina syndrome affects. It affects the bladder, so you can end up with bladder paralysis. It affects the bowel, so you can end up with bowel paralysis. It affects your sexual function, so you can end up not being able to ejaculate or orgasm. It also affects your functionality. It affects your legs, your feet, your bum. When I say it affects it, there's two sides to it. So it affects the motor function of your legs and your movement and everything, and it also affects your sensory function. So you can't feel in certain places, and when I say you can't feel, I mean you really can't feel. So for example, if a hammer was to drop onto my foot, I wouldn't feel it. I'd panic and scream, and you'd probably think, oh, he probably felt that. But I'm more panic and screaming because where I can't feel there, I'm more prone to something that's called pressure ulcers or pressure sores or bed sores. So obviously if an area on my skin becomes bruised, or if there's too much pressure on it. So for example, if I was to sit in my wheelchair for a long period of time, I could end up with a pressure ulcer on my bum. And what this would mean is that the skin would start to open, and you'd start to get an ulcer, and the hole could go very deep. You can even get pressure sores where it's underneath the skin, so you don't even know you've got it until it's very late. So that's why we have to do something called pressure relief. And usually the advice is that we do 2 minutes of pressure relief every hour. So for every hour we're sat in our chair, we need to either lean to our side to give pressure relief, or we have to lean as forward as we can without falling over or falling forward, to make sure that we're giving correct relief to our bums, which is also a difficult task because obviously I've got bowel paralysis. So when I lift my bum, a lot of the time it will usually mean that flatulence happens and wind comes out, and that can be very embarrassing. So there's many ways that Cauda Equina syndrome affects. It's like I'm being kind of attacked from every angle. So my mental health is being attacked, my functionality is being attacked, my sensory is being attacked, the social taboos are being attacked. It's like, you know, I'm kind of like, it isolates you. It really does. It isolates you and puts you into this dark corner where you're just on your own and you don't want to move, and you're worried that if you move, you might get Cauda Equina again, because you can have it more than once. So you could have your Cauda Equina could be compressed by your disc, and then they remove part of the disc or the whole disc, and then another disc below, maybe because that's functioning more now, that's having to take more of the weight because of the missing disc, that ends up coming out of its socket, and then you end up with Cauda Equina more than once. So you can get over this, and then next thing you know, you're back in there with it again. And when I say get over it, I don't think you ever truly do get over it. I think the trauma and going through the operation to the rehabilitation stages, and as well as living in a different body, it's like you've gone to sleep for the operation, and then you've woke up with a completely different body, and now you have to try and learn to live with this body, and it's really crazy. But yeah, it affects your mental health. It affects everything, absolutely everything that you can think of, your whole body. A lot of people see you in a wheelchair and they think, oh wow, I wish he could walk again. But walking is the last thing on my mind right now. It's being able to go to the toilet properly. It's, you know, it's my mental health. There's so many things that are affected with Cauda Equina syndrome. So where should we start? I mean, one thing that my my neurosurgeon loved to do every time he comes see me on his weekly round when I was in rehab is he'd like to start from top to bottom. So first we talk about the mental health side of things, and then we work our way down to the bladder and the bowel, and then the legs and the feet. So we'll probably start with that. Although I'm going to do it in reverse, because I think if I start with mental health, you won't really get it until you kind of see what the rest of the body's going through, and then you're like, oh, that's why his head's a bit messed up, you know. So let's start the other way around. So let's go from bottom to top. So we're going to start with my feet. Okay, so as you can see, my feet, they dangle. Yeah, so usually they should be in this position here. That's how the foot should be, but if I was to let go, it just dangles. There's nothing holding my feet into the correct position, and there's a muscle just at the back here. And what happens is, the more my foot stays like this muscle starts to shrink. So that's why we have to do plenty of exercises like pulling back, down, back, and just keeping that muscle going. And this is why you'll see many people with Cauda Equina syndrome, we have these things. You might have seen them. So they're called AFOs, and they're ankle and foot orthosis. So we strap these to our foot and we put them in our trainer. So as you can kind of see, if our foot's in there like that, it's in a nice position where it's supposed to be. So every time I lift my leg, my foot doesn't dangle, it comes up nice. So I'm not going to trip over, I'm not going to, you know, my feet aren't going to dangle. And these are very safe things to wear. They're not that comfortable, to be honest. They've had to trim the plastic a few times because they've left marks in my feet. And again, we have to be careful with marks, again, with the pressure ulcers and everything. So we had to test them out a few times, and these are just temporary ones until my permanent ones are made, which they had to kind of put they put clay around my foot to try and get the correct size and everything. So yeah, so I have to wear AFOs to keep my foot in the correct position, as well as having to do the exercises with my foot going backwards and forwards to keep that muscle at the back expanding. Because if it shrinks, literally the foot is gonna get stuck in a dangled position, and then when you go to lift it, you're not going to be able to. It's just going to be so stiff, and you could end up tearing the muscle. So literally every day you have to do these muscles with these stretches with your feet. And again, I can't feel my feet, so I can't move my toes. If I was to say move toe, move, it won't move. See, like, it's just completely dead. It's like, it's dead weight. There's nothing there. I can't feel any of that until it gets to about here. I can feel a little bit of pressure here where my ankle is, which is kind of weird because I should be able to go like that, you'd think, if you can feel it. But that's why I said there's two components here, because you've got motor function and you've got sensory function. So you might have sensation in some parts of your body, but then you have no motor function, so which means that you can't move it, but you can feel it. And then in other parts, you can move it, but you can't feel it. It's very weird. So that's my feet anyway. And I do have nighttime splints that you're supposed to wear. But to be honest with you, every time I go to sleep with them on my feet, I wake up with swollen feet, and I get really panicky about that. So I do extra exercises to kind of compensate with my foot. And when we've reached the leg now, so on this side, which is really weird, because on the inside of my leg, I can feel this, but if I go to the outside, I can't feel that. I can't feel anything there. There's absolutely nothing there. Look, nothing. I can't feel it. This side, I can feel that. So, and this is the same on both of my legs. So on the outside of both of my legs, I'm completely numb. On the inside, I can feel, but that's only at the bottom where the calves are. So once we get to the knees, so the knees, as you can see, I can bend. So the injury level I had was L3. So the L3 disc, so it's L3, L4. So L3 deals with knee extension. So this means I'm able to do this. Yeah? So because I've got my L3, I can do that. But L4, L5 deal with the heel and the ankle there. And that's why I can't do that, because I've lost that. When you're injured at a certain level, you tend to lose most, if not all, of everything below that level of injury. So if you're injured up at the neck, yeah, you'll find that people are kind of paralyzed from that point down. If they're, so you've got the cervical, and then you've got the thoracic, and then you've got the lumbar parts of the spine. So if you're up at the cervical, for example, there's lots of people that can't move their wrists, so they can't bend their wrists, and they can't function their fingers correctly, because the disc level that provides the functionality to that and sensation is completely gone. So so people often wonder, like, why is this so, and stuff like that. And I know this because when I was in rehab, there was people there that obviously had motorbike accidents, so they've broken their neck. Some people, not many in the thoracic, to be honest. So you've got like the neck, and then you've got the thoracic, then you've got the lumbar. So my section was lumbar, so the lumbar section, which is the lower half. So I'm quite fortunate to have my wrists and hands and everything. But there was other patients at Stoke Mandeville, and obviously they had broken, or they fractured up the top half, so they couldn't function the bottom half of their body below that point. So a lot of them were bed bound. A lot of them you know, they couldn't move at all, and they had to be hoisted into a wheelchair, and then they had to use electric wheelchairs because they couldn't use their hands to propel themselves. So anyway, so because of the L3 section, I can bend my knees. I couldn't always stand, and I couldn't always walk, because after my surgery, obviously I've been in bed for a long period of time, so I'd lost a lot of muscle function. So for example, I'd lost my quads, I'd lost my hamstrings, I'd lost the glutes in my bum. So I couldn't stand up, and I couldn't walk or anything like that. And so that's why I've got knee function. So once you get to my knee over here, I can't feel underneath the knee. So underneath the knee is very numb. There's no feeling there whatsoever. So despite being able to do the extension, I can't feel anything there. On the top half, I can feel here, I can feel the knee. But what's interesting, what happens here, is that on the outside I can't feel, on the inside I can. But as soon as you get to the knee and you come underneath, then all that part then turns to go underneath, and underneath the knee, the thigh, you can't feel anything. So all this going here all the way down to my bum, I can't feel a thing. I can feel on top. So that's kind of strange how it kind of goes from the side, not being able to feel, to underneath, and on this side it's the inside, but then I can feel on top. So as you can see, it's really kind of altered, and there's different levels where I can feel and where I can't feel. So it's sometimes hard when you say I'm paralyzed from the waist down. They're like, well, how comes you can feel there? So I'm not completely paralyzed below the waist, but there's parts where I am. So that's why I tend to use the term kind of paraplegic, because I can't feel or move my feet, you know. So yeah, so that's the legs. And then obviously when we get to the let's go to the back first. So we'll start with the bum, we'll start with the bowels. So when we get to the bowel section, there's complete paralysis there. So if you imagine every time you go to the toilet, that you rely on those muscles inside your bum to kind of push the stool out and everything. So I've lost that. I've lost the function there. And we have something that's called 1 minute, sorry, the dog's barking. And we have something that's called sorry about that. We have something that's called an anal wink. So when you, with your bum, your rectum, your kind of bum hole is kind of like the muscles pull it together, so it's very tight, like that. And then what happens when you push your stool? It expands, and then it comes back in again. But with mine, I don't have any muscle function there or anything, so I've got complete paralysis, so it's just like that. So it's completely open, which means that I am prone to having loose stools, and if my stool is loose, then it's just going to come straight out. There's nothing to stop it from coming out. So there's times, I think I probably have about 2 to 3 accidents a month, and so I have 2 to 3 accidents a month where my stools are loose, and we have to alternate with our medication to make sure that we have the right consistency of stool. Otherwise there will be even more accidents, and it's very hard when you're taking laxatives because things can just come out. So the other side to it is that I have to use this. So as you can see here, so I have to use a glove and I have to use a lubricant sachet. Okay, so every time that I need to go to the toilet, and don't forget that I can't feel down there, so it's done more on routine. It isn't done on feeling. Now this is quite interesting with me, and I don't know if this is the same with other Cauda Equina patients, but with myself, I do have a little bit of sensation down in my bowel, and this is something that just recently came back. This might sound really good, but it's actually really frustrating because although there's sensation there, there's not always a stool there. So sometimes my neurons are firing off and everything's going off like there's something there, but then when I check there's nothing there. It's just because I've got altered levels of sensation, so it's not sure what to do. It's trying to work out the correct signal to send to the brain, and it just doesn't know. So that can be really frustrating because you could be laying there at night and you're like, I really need to poo, and there's nothing there. So it's really hard getting off to sleep when you have that. So anyway, yeah, so I have to use a glove and one of these. So you put the glove on and you put the lubrication on the finger, and it's called digital evacuation. So there's two types. You've got digital evacuation or you've got digital stimulation. So some people that have a little bit of functionality down there, because I have something that's called a flaccid bowel, a flaccid bladder and a flaccid bowel. But some other people have more kind of neurological issues with their function of their bowel and bladder and everything, but mine's flaccid. So what this means is, so with digital stimulation, you insert the finger and you spin, and with this spinning sensation, it encourages the stool to come down and come out. But I can't do that. So what I have to do is I have to stimulate at first, and then I have to literally dig everything out. So everything has to be pulled out manually. And that's why it's called digital evacuation, because you're digitally using your digit to evacuate the stool. And this is something that can be very frustrating as well, because obviously you're used to living all your life going naturally and everything, and now you have to sit there kind of on your side with your finger and you have to pull it out, and it was hard for me to kind of do it first, and I had to be trained up. And I have to say, at Stoke Mandeville, they have fantastic nurses and HDAs, and they've been very supportive throughout kind of my whole rehabilitation stages, because they showed me and built me up with the confidence to be able to do this myself, because at first they had to do it for me. And there was points where I was just on a medication called bicycodil, so this literally just flushed me out. So a lot of the time I was laying in bed, laying in my own poo, and they had to come and clean me every time I went. So we kind of went from that point to building more independence for myself, so where I could just go myself, which meant that we stopped the bicycodil and the stool become a bit more solid, and that way I was able to pull it out. But saying this, because of the flaccid bowel and everything, it also means that I'm more prone to being constipated. And so because I have the constipation, this then makes it very difficult, and I do feel my tummy. So with my tummy, I can either feel pain, and that's either because I've got trapped wind, or secondly, it's because I'm constipated, and it's hard to know which one it is. So most times, people like myself, they'll probably try some techniques. So for example, you can lay on your front and you can try and lift your legs, and that would encourage kind of the wind to leave, or you can sit down and lift yourself up on your wheelchair by holding onto the arms, and that kind of pressure kind of pushes the wind out. But if no wind is coming out after doing that, then it's probably likely that you're a bit constipated, and that's why. So that's kind of something that I've learnt myself. So yeah, so the bowel is a huge thing, and it's actually, like, if I had a choice to have my legs back or have my bowel back, I'd pick my bowel, because it is so, the bowel and the bladder and everything like that, it affects your mental health. So it can get very depressing when you've got a dodgy bowel and stuff like that, because it literally, even more so when you've got Cauda Equina syndrome, because it's almost like you're feeling it, you're enhanced, like the feeling is more enhanced now, that this time I know there's something wrong with my bowel and I know something's not right, so this automatically is going to bring you down. So the bowel literally is a huge thing with Cauda Equina syndrome. And to be honest with you, for any kind of spinal cord injury patient, a lot of patients that I was with, again, not all of them had Cauda Equina. I might have been maybe maybe the only one or one of two there that had it, I think. But a lot of other people that had higher up injuries and everything, obviously they had the same issues with their bowel, but obviously it was a bit different for them because it's not Cauda Equina. But their bowels affected them the same way. And it's very difficult for them to kind of process it mentally, everything that they're going through. It's so traumatic. Like, it's just, you think that some people suffer with trauma and it takes them years to get over. This is like months of trauma that is life-changing. So yeah, so that's kind of the bowel. So that's not the only technique you can use to empty the stool. So I'm going to be moving on to something called peristine. So that's kind of when you kind of put a little catheter up your bum, and then you flush it with warm water, and it kind of empties the whole, well, the bottom half of the colon. It just empties everything out. So you don't need to do it for every like 2 to 3 days. Which would be a lot better, because at the minute I have to do this twice a day, and that can be very, very frustrating, having to do it twice a day. So that's the bowel, and there's probably so much more we can talk about with the bowel, but that's basically my experience and kind of what I've gone through. And a lot of the not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to go to work, you know, it has been fear of soiling myself. It's been fear of, you know, how do I do this in a public place? What do I do if I'm stuck and I need to go? What if other people can smell it and I can't? What if I like literally just bend over to pick something up from my wheelchair and then a fart comes out? And that actually did happen to me at work, and I blamed one of my friends for it. And sorry, she knows who she is. So there's ways to get around it, but yeah, the bowel's a massive thing. So with the bladder now, so obviously we've talked about bowel paralysis. Now we've got the bladder paralysis. So I can't urinate for myself. So if I was to take my penis out and go to the toilet, nothing would come out. The only time something comes out is if I kind of transfer, if I move from bed to wheelchair, or wheelchair to commode, or even if I've got a full bladder and I even just kind of bend forward a bit, that pressure onto the abdomen will kind of push down onto the bladder, and the bladder will then push it out. So there's no kind of neurological connectivity here. So if you imagine there's a motorway going from your brain down to your bladder, there's been an explosion, and one of the bridges is literally disconnected, so those signals are not getting through saying, okay, I need to go to the wee now. The brain then sends a signal down to your bladder, says, right, release, and it kind of opens. So so with your bum, it kind of I forgot the name of it now. It's so terrible because I've got so much to say. So in your bum, what's it called? Sphincter. I think it's sphincter. So in your bum, so when you go to the toilet, your sphincter relaxes, and because it relaxes, this enables the urine to leave the body. And so because that signal going down is not telling the sphincter to relax, it means obviously that the wee is not coming out, and it can only come out if it's pushed onto, and this is called stress incontinence. So due to stress incontinence, you can have leaks. So that's why I have to wear these pads every day. So I change them frequently because I like to be clean, but they're quite expensive. They're £10 a pack, and they're not on the NHS either. So I have to wear these pads, and it's quite funny because at Stoke they just call them women's pads, but hey, I've got no shame. Like, I'd rather wear a pad than have to change my trousers about 10 times a day. So I have to wear a pad and you just kind of stick it inside your boxer shorts. And obviously this prevents you being embarrassed again by having wet yourself in public and stuff due to stress incontinence. So yeah, so how does the wee come out? So this is, these are you can get many different types of catheters. I always found these to be very comfortable and very nice, and I'm kind of going to show you what it looks like, because not many people probably seen one before. So every time I need to go to the wee, you have to open the side here like that, But before we start that, let me just be very clear. This is a very, you have to be very hygienic with this, okay? So you need to wash your hands. I don't have access to a sink downstairs, so I have, so this is antiseptic hand, and you've got to make sure obviously that doesn't go onto your genitals because that can cause problems as well. So I have to clean my hands first. You always have to keep clean with this because you risk having a urinary tract infection, so which is otherwise UTI. You could get a UTI if you're not cleaning your hands. So once I've cleaned my hands, you then have to use baby wipes to clean the end of your penis. And again, if you're not keeping clean, what could happen is when you feed the catheter through the hole, through your penis hole, you could risk some dirt going in with it, or some bacteria or something, and this could then get into the bladder and cause a UTI. And with UTIs, I did have one in hospital. Don't know how, because I was being very hygienic, but it might have been that I wasn't drinking enough water, which we will come on to, because obviously we have to drink lots of water as well to make sure that we're flushing out and cleaning. So you could get a UTI if you're not cleaning yourself properly. So every time I go to the wee, I have to wash my hands, which should be normal anyway, but you wash before. And you clean the end of your penis. And then this here is the catheter. So you kind of rip there's a little bit of paper kind of thing holding it together. And you have a bag at the bottom. So this is where the kind of urine goes into the bag. And then as you can see, there's a little cap on the top like that. So it's kind of all attached to each other. So if you take that off, so this end bit here, so that has to be inserted into the penis. And then you've got a little round bit here, and that just sits on the outside. So this encourages that so you don't touch this part. So you hold it like that. So it encourages that you don't get any dirt inside your penis. And then once you have that sat and rested inside your hole, you then feed that through, and this will go, and I don't know if you can see it on there, but on the end of here, there's a hole. So there's a little hole just on the end here, and that's where the urine will come out. But you feed that all the way through, and that literally will go straight into the bladder. You have to push through your prostate. Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes it just goes through nice and easy. And some people obviously do lubricate themselves down there before, just to give it an extra bit of kind of an extra smoothness when it goes in. But there has been times when you go in and your prostate's there and you have to cough or something just to kind of encourage it to go through. So once that goes through, so that collects the urine, then the urine goes into the bag. Once that's done, you pull that out, and then you have a full bag, and just here there's like a rip thing. So you rip it out and then you pour it into the toilet. And then once that's done, you fold it up, wrap it up, and then this then goes back into the bag like that, and then you dispose it. So every time I need to go to the wee, that's what I've got to do. Again, quite frustrating. And so that's the bladder. Whether that will come back in time, I don't know. Whether the signals will come through and say, some people it has worked. So after a year or 2 years, some people do get their bladder back. They do say that I think the bladder and bowel is probably the last to come back. But some people do, some people don't. So some people have to do that every day for the rest of their lives. And that could be me. I might have to do it for the rest of my life. I don't know. So only time will tell with that. But I mean, I'm quite used to it now. I'm comfortable. I go between 5 to 7 times a day. I usually produce about 200 mils of urine every time. Really, I should be drinking more water. But I am on vitamin C, and the vitamin C helps to deal with obviously keeping the bladder clean and stuff. So and there is evidence to show for that. So so yeah, that's the bladder. And so while we're still down here, the next one, most awkward one, is the sexual dysfunction. So what this means is, so I can't feel my penis. So if you can imagine, I don't think I have anything. I was gonna say, if you can imagine, if you can imagine So you've got the end, so there's no feeling, and then when you get down to the shaft, I can feel a little bit around there, but that's it. There's nothing on that side. I can't feel anything at all. It's very kind of it's weird. It's just like a little bit of skin, extra skin that's there. You just can't feel anything. But fortunately, so because my injury level is L3, so I think at the thoracic, I think it's thoracic 10, T10, maybe at that part. So there's two ways that you can get an erection. So one is from T10, I think it is. Don't quote me on that. It's just I'm trying to go back to my reading. So one is at T10, so you can get a neurological, a neuro erection. What this means is that you get an erection because you can think about something that's sexual or pleasurable, and this will then send signals down, and the T10 then branches off, and a part of that will go to your penis. So that would encourage an erection. So I can get an erection because of that T10. The other way to get an erection is obviously through touch and sensation and stuff like that, which is more lower, and I think that's more in the sacral. The sacral section is below the lumbar section, so through the sacral section, through sensation, you can get an erection. So I can't get that. So if I was to rub myself like that without thinking anything, I wouldn't get an erection. It would just stay limp. So you literally have to encourage it from up here. Sadly, the other side to it is that the sacral section alone pretty much deals with ejaculation. So I can't ejaculate, and well, I say I can't, I have twice. So I did do it once, but the ejaculation was a bit different. Usually you can see the white in it. It was pretty much clear. It did smell like cum and stuff like that, but there just wasn't any white. So I don't know if that means that I'm not producing enough sperm anymore. My sperm count must be very low now. And I think a lot of people with Cauda Equina syndrome, they do suffer with low sperm count after, and some can't actually produce any children unless obviously it's done through like taking out injection or something. So yeah, so I mean, so that was once, and then I had a wet dream, which was really weird because I'm 39 years old, and it happened to me about a week ago, something like that. And I knew I was having a sexual dream because when you're having a sexual dream, you know about it. But then I woke up, and obviously I felt myself ejaculating. And then I woke up, and then I looked in my pants, and literally it was there. And again, it was quite clear. It wasn't as white as before and stuff like that. And but it definitely was. It smelled like it and stuff like that. So, which is very strange. How I managed to ejaculate in my sleep, but I can't do it when I'm awake. So very strange feeling. And obviously the thing that affects you with that, I can't, and the thing is, I think people need to understand that Cauda Equina syndrome affects men and women, and I can't really talk for women because I'm not a woman, so I don't know the extent how it affects women, because obviously women are different. So I mean, don't say, oh, well, Sean says this is how it is, because I can only tell you as a man. I'm a man, so I can only tell you how it affects me, but I know that it affects women differently as well. And I've spoke to women with Cauda Equina syndrome, and some of them can't feel their clitoris, they can't feel any kind of penetration, things going in, and obviously I think it's harder for them when they have to catheterize as well, because if you can imagine, my one's just there with a hole and you just kind of feed it through, but they have to kind of get a mirror and make sure they're going into the right place sometimes, and it can't be easy for them. Probably harder, to be honest, more difficult for women with Cauda Equina syndrome. But yeah, so for myself, I can only say kind of what it feels like for me, and a lot of kind of that not working properly and stuff like that when I was in hospital affected my psychological health, because I was thinking, am I still a man? I was questioning my sexual identity, and I was thinking to myself, am I still a man? You know, like, are other men gonna take the mick out of me? Like, if I was to go into the pub, I was thinking things like with my wife, if I was to go in the pub with her, other blokes might look at me and say, oh, he can't even shag his missus, he can't, you know, he can't even get it up, and, you know, and probably thinking they can take advantage. You know, it's just weird because as men, we tend to kind of understand the thinking of other men, and it's not a nice way to think, but obviously, sadly, there would be men out there that think that, and you know. So that was another difficult thing. So I kind of pushed her away because I thought, you know, I didn't want to go through that. I don't want to go through the process of other men thinking they can just get in there with my missus because mine isn't working properly. And so there's a lot of kind of thoughts that I have where I just want to be on my own because, you know, there's a lot of times I just don't feel I can do certain things. And so, yeah, so it affects you. It affects, I had numerous sessions with my psychologist, who was brilliant. His name's Kevin, where we spoke about sexual identity and a lot of kind of masculinity came out of it, and kind of I had to kind of humble myself a bit and realize that actually there's other qualities to myself other than just being a masculine man. There's more things to me that make Sean than just being, you know, big hard dick, fuck women, you know, like there's more to life than that. Although that is still important as well. It's still important to have intimate relations. So yeah, so that affected my sexual function has been impacted massively. And when I saw a sexual nurse, they basically said if you don't use it, you lose it. So we all have to kind of, even with our feet, with the parts that we can't feel, we have to rub, or, you know, we have to keep stimulating the area just to encourage and just, you know, just see if anything comes back. So so yeah, we have to do some of that, and which isn't easy again because I can't feel it. So that's very difficult. So okay, so we've done feet, we've done legs, we've done bum, bowel, and sorry, with the bum as well, I forgot to say that my saddle is numb, so I can't feel when I'm sitting. So so yeah, all that area, that region is numb, completely numb, although I can feel my testicles. So I used to have a joke in rehab where I said, oh, thanks a lot, God, because every time I transferred from the bed to the chair or whatever, I'd land on my testicles, I'd be like, oh, like really hurts. And thanks for letting me keep that feeling. 1 minute, sorry, I got another message. So yeah, so that's that. And then, so if we work our way up now, obviously with the belly, I spoke about flatulence, with constipation. You know, like you can get that pain, so you have to go on your side or try and encourage something to see if any wind comes out. If there's no wind, then it's probably that you do need to go poo. So working up here now, so head, mental health, massive. So when I was at Stoke Mandeville, in fact, going back to King's, I remember laying in bed and I didn't want to live. I couldn't move my feet, I couldn't feel my penis. You know, as a man, you think, you used to probably say, if I ever lost my penis, I wouldn't want to live. And I probably joked with blokes before saying that, and other blokes would have joked with other blokes saying, oh no, I couldn't live without that, you know. And so I'm literally laying there and I can't feel it and nothing's happening, and I'm like, why am I still alive? You know, why am I still here? I can't live without that. Again, it's questioning my identity as a man. Like, you know, what does that mean? I'm going to have a sex change now? Does it mean that I'm going to become gay? Does it mean that, you know, because obviously I can't do anything with women because it doesn't work. Obviously there's other things you can do with women. It's not, you know, you have fingers, you have tongue, you have different things you can do. And women probably like that better. And it lasts longer. So yeah, so my mental health was battered, and there were times I literally could see myself just getting my bed sheets, tying them around my throat, and just I was looking up on the thing to see. There was times I'd look up just to see if there was anywhere I could attach the sheet to, and I was looking for high up things, and I was questioning how I would get up there and if there was a way I could tie it. And then there'd also be the times when I'd go online and I'd look at assisted suicide abroad, like in Switzerland, and I think it was Switzerland. I was trying to Google it, and I was seeing how much it cost, how I would get out there, you know, just so I could be put to sleep, you know. And it's sad because obviously I've got kids, you've got family and stuff like that, but I was literally feeling that low and hopeless that I didn't want to live. And I just literally wanted to die. I did not want to be awake. And I was so angry that I woke up from that operation. I literally just wish I was just, and another thing, when I was put to sleep, I couldn't remember anything. There wasn't dreaming, nothing. It was just a blank state. And then when I came out, I was all of a sudden in a different room. And I started thinking back where was I before? And I could remember, of course, but yeah, so there was lots of times, and I said to my wife, I said, go and meet someone else, you know, just meet someone else, because right now I don't want to be with anyone. I just want to be on my own, you know, because I feel like I'm broken. I feel like I'm so broken, and I'm not good enough to be with anyone, you know, and because I've got so many things wrong with me, how am I supposed to be there for someone else? How am I supposed to be someone's rock, someone's strength, when actually I'm breaking on every part of my inside, and there's parts of my body I can't even use, I can't even move. So the mental health was massive. I had to see a psychologist, and the trauma is still there today. And I've left, and I suppose the one thing I got from the psychologist was coping mechanisms. So I know that if so we would build strategies that, what if these thoughts come, how are we going to deal with it? So I kind of saw it as a cloud, so I knew that the cloud was there, and it was raining, it was thundering, but eventually that cloud would pass. So there wasn't any point ending my life or doing something permanent for something that was only going to be there for a little while. So that's how I kind of managed it. So the mental health is huge. And even to this day, today, I suffer massively. And sometimes I've gone into work and I've taken a call and it's triggered something. So I've had a call with someone that had Cauda Equina syndrome, were queried. And I literally didn't know how to handle it, and I broke down. I went into the toilet, I cried, and fortunately my work's really good, so they've set me up with counselling now. So we began doing counselling, because I don't think you ever get over the trauma of having a fully functioning body to then just being broken. And that's how I feel a lot of the time. I feel broken. Yeah, I feel broken, and I put on smiles for everyone else, a bit like that guy Robin Williams, you know, like you try and, I'm always trying to make everyone else smile, make other people laugh, but inside I'm dying, do you know? I literally feel so broken inside, and I just want to be on my own, you know, a lot of the time. I don't like having people around me. I just, like I said, with Cauda Equina, we're in a corner, we're in a dark corner on our own, and sometimes you could have everyone around you and stuff like that, but you just don't feel that you're human anymore. You don't feel that you're part of that, you know, because you're something different now. And that's how I feel a lot of the time. And I know that's not how it is, but like I said, mental health is huge. There are days I don't want to get out of bed. There are days where I'm supposed to do exercises and I'm like, I can't be bothered, really don't want to do it. And obviously there's days I still get those suicidal thoughts that come along, that question, you know, you're worthless, what are you doing here? You know, like, why are you still here? I suppose my job gave me a purpose, and my kids and stuff, and I try and hold on to that. But the mental health side of Cauda Equina is absolutely massive, and that's why I'm on so many tablets. So I'm on tablets. I'm on 60 milligrams of duloxetine. So duloxetine deals with mental health, but it also deals with the neuropathic pain, which I didn't even touch on. So we'll go neuropathic pain in a minute. So so the duloxetine deals with neuropathic pain. It deals with my mental health. It also deals with stress incontinence. Remember what I was saying about the bladder, where when you press down, you wee out? It does reduce it a bit. It does apparently help with that. So I'm on 60 milligrams of duloxetine every day, and I'm on gabapentin. So I was on 1800 milligrams of gabapentin a day, but I've cut that down myself because I don't want to be too reliant on taking tablets, and I don't want to take more than I need, you know. And sometimes that does mean I do have a bit of neuro pain, but it's manageable. It's not anything that kind of hurts me that much, other than the shocks, which we will come to. So yeah, so basically, so I'm on the gabapentin, I'm on duloxetine, I'm on vitamin D, and I'm on vitamin C, again, twice a day vitamin C, so that's 500 in the morning, 500 in the afternoon, in the evening, and I'm also on something called Senna. So what Senna does is it encourages the stool to go down. Again, because I've got that paralysis, if I don't have anything to kind of encourage it to go down, it will just probably sit there. So So the senna helps to encourage the stool to go down, just loosen it a little bit, just so it can go down. And then again, if I do get constipated, I've got sodium doxysate, which is another little rugby ball tablet you can take, and that will literally flush you. And I don't really like taking it because it makes me soil my pants. In fact, the 2-3 times a month when I do soil my pants, it's because I've had sodium doxysate. It's really efficient, but it's not as lethal as bisacodyl. Bisacodyl will literally turn that stool into water. So so I prefer the sodium doxysate to the bisacodyl. But yes, I'm on senna every day. I need that every day to help encourage the stool to go down. So lastly and finally, and I'm sure there's a million other things to talk about, but I will end with neuropathic pain, because that is another thing that affects my mental health. It sends me into a low mood. It makes me not be able to get up, not be able to move. So how that works is, so a lot of people say to me, but you can feel something, surely that's a good thing. No, mate, my bloody nerves are dying. Like, they're literally screaming out. It's not a good thing because it hurts. It's really not. So the neuropathic pain I get, it tends to be in my feet. So mainly my left. I don't know why that is. I get it more in my left than my right. There are times I do get it in my right, but the left is so much more worse. So right now, for example, my toes, I've got a burning sensation. So it feels like my toes are burning, like someone's poured hot water over my toes. So I feel like they're burning, like literally they're really, you know, they're red raw, they're on fire. That's how my toes feel right now. And I feel like that probably about 60% of the day. So I get lots of burning sensation in my toes. I also get it here in the top of my foot. So at the bottom, I don't really get much, to be honest. I can feel a little tickle there, which is something, but I don't feel anything else really. So at the top here, it feels like burning, and it burns more in the toe. So here it feels like it's 100% on fire. Here it's about 80% on fire. So again, I will get that in both feet, but more on my left for some reason. I don't know why. The worst one that I have to deal with, so neuro pain, obviously the burning sensation or pins and needles, sometimes it can feel like. The worst one is the neuro shocks. So when I get neuropathic shocks, what that does is it literally makes me jump. It makes me jolt, and it's really painful. I go, ah, like that. Like it lasts less than a second, but they come every like 10 seconds, 20 seconds. So I would get that in my heel. So I get that here in my heel, or I get it here in my calf. Yeah, and that's the same on both sides. So on the other side, I get it in my heel or my calf. That's where I mainly get it. So in those two places, but it's never in the same place. So it might be a zap there, then a zap there, then a zap there, and the next thing I've got a zap there. And I have that on both my legs, and that can be really frustrating because I think the longest it's ever lasted for was a day, 24 hours, and just imagine every 20 seconds you're being zapped. It really gets frustrating, it really gets tiring, and I have oral morph for that, so I can take oral morph, and I also take paracetamol on top of my meds as well when that happens. Again, which usually happens once or twice a month. So it's not all the time, but the neuro pain, the burning is always there. But the neuro shocks is like maybe 2 to 5 times a month. I get that, and it's really bad. It's like the worst thing you could deal with because it's constant, and you just don't sleep. You don't get rest from it. In fact, sleep is the only rest. So if you can get to sleep, I literally try and knock myself out with the morphine so I can wake up. And then when I wake up, it's gone usually. But it can last 1 to 2 days. So yeah, that's the neuro pain. And so yeah, as you can see, there's lots of things. I'm nearly speaking for 50 minutes now, and I haven't even touched the surface of how this is affecting me, how it makes me function. I haven't even spoke about taking steps on the Zimmer frame and how that affects me. There's so many ways that this affects me, and I just thought I'd share a bit of my life with you about that. Even things like getting dressed, where I have to lay on the bed to get dressed, and I have to lay down, and you know, because I can't stand up and put things on because I'll fall over. And I haven't even spoke about my balance or anything, or about the glutes. But hopefully in these 50 minutes, you've kind of come to understand a bit more about how Cauda Equina syndrome affects you, and how it really impacts on your life massively. It changes so many things. It changes relationships you have with others. It changes, you know, it's like I've got a new family now in the Cauda Equina syndrome lot. But yeah, guys, I could be here forever talking about it, but thanks for watching, and I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.